Welcome to Mastering CS Candid Leader Insights, the podcast where we dive into the world of customer success with industry leaders. I'm your host, Irina Cismas, and today I'm joined by Catalin Petre, Customer Success Manager at Several Lines, a company that helps teams deploy, manage, and operate open source databases in production. Catalin, I'm really happy to have you here. Thanks for joining.
Thank you for your invite. Hello, everyone.
Before we get into the work itself, I want to remind a bit. You've spent years in very structured environments, and now you are doing CS in a scale up where it's
Correct.
basically you. What made you say yes to that move?
I'm gonna be completely honest with this one, Irina. After 7 years in corporate environment, I know it's gonna sound a bit like a cliche, but I will detail in just a few moments. But I really felt the need for a change. The company that I work for, I changed various departments. I handled even, let's say, after hours projects and so on. But I did not feel that things were moving in the right direction, professionally and especially not financially. So at the end of the day, what can I say? Corporate spirit and team spirit do not pay the bills. Hence, I felt the need for a change, and I ended up at several nines, which I have to say was a huge shift in my professional development and a huge improvement by all means, by far.
Let's talk about your setup today. If I sat next to you for a week at several nines, what would I actually see you doing across customers?
Let's just say it's not at several lines, it's not the usual CS setup. By that I mean that I work in direct conjunction with the account executives for basically each account. So we all do up to some degree prospecting, and we all handle the customers. So basically each customer has at least two people handling their account, or in some cases even three people. We have our solutions architect as well in the equation. We, as I said, in conjunction, we both work to ensure that all customers are happy. They have all their support tickets handled on time. I'm not saying that our support team might slack on the job. On the contrary, I have to say, Several Lines has one of the best support teams that I've seen, because their median response time is 4 minutes or 5 minutes, something like that. So they're highly responsive. But of course, we, the sales team, I and the account executives, and if needs be, our solutions architect, we follow up. We make sure that everything is done in a speedy manner with a complete resolution, and follow up with the client to make sure that everything's a-okay. Of course, we do the onboarding. By we, I mean me and a support engineer, someone from the tech team. We handle the onboarding after the deal is closed, 1 day, a week tops in most cases. There's also a post onboarding checklist, which I conduct after, let's say, a couple of weeks. I make sure that everything that was discussed during the onboarding session has been, most of it at least, implemented and actively used. Once every 3 months ish, a refresher to see that everything's working fine, to bring clients up to speed with the latest developments in our product, of course, to check their pulse, to make sure they're happy. And towards the end of their 12-month subscription, we also start talking about the renewal. And from time to time, we have webinar events, which, of course, I actively encourage our customers to participate in. In a nutshell, that would be most of my activity.
You know what I'm curious about? There's a your role is blended between sales and post-sales activities, and I wouldn't say that it's the, as you mentioned, the traditional form of customer
Yep, yep,
success.
yep, yep.
Were you the first one wearing this hat? So were you brought into the team dedicated for to handle that area, both
Yes.
and mainly post-sales?
Yes, that was the plan back in 2022. Several Lines was looking for a customer success manager to handle small and medium-sized accounts. they found me. And I was the first and currently still the only customer success person in several lines.
Is it correct to assume that when you first joined the team, there were no, I would say, processes or standardized things on the CS side of things, or on how do you handle the post sale activities? And if so, how did you build it?
Yes, you are right. When I came in, of course, this still applies up to some degree. Each account executive pretty much handles his or her clients along the guidelines, but with small variations. So I could see differences between various territories. When I came in, I tried to harmonize everyone to be more everyone, and by everyone I mean the clients, to be more or less on the same page in terms of deal sizes and discounts and subscription time frames. Try to put everything in order, and this can be done, in my opinion, by building rapport, by keeping in contact with the clients. Of course, not spamming them or calling them once every 3 days, but anyway, to not let them get cold, to keep in constant contact with them. And this is, in my opinion, a huge improvement from the colder way of doing things when I was in Oracle. Okay, I'll say the name. And that's because at Oracle I would have a different territory every year with different people. Here I get to speak to the same people as long as they don't change position. We're in constant contact throughout their subscription time frame and after the renewal as well. So I speak to the same people. Of course, we with some of them we have a very good relation. We like talk about families and how are things. These sorts of conversations. So it's more than just a cold business interaction. Okay, and by having a better understanding of these people and by keeping in constant contact with them, I think things run a lot smoother.
I'm surprised because I think I'm correct when I assume that you are managing a super technical product with more or less technical audience. Or if we are talking about your customers, I wouldn't have expected the, let's call them engineers or the technical people, appreciate the human part of things or the relationship building part. I imagined them being very transactional, I would say.
You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised. But in some cases, we don't necessarily speak to the tech people. We, of course, we speak to procurement. We speak to the whomever is concerned of directly renewing those licenses. I would dare to say that maybe 60% of them are technical.
Mhm.
As a general overview, 40% are non-technical, but they're responsible for renewing said subscriptions. But yes, even technical people have a human side. Let's put it this way. On discussing.
And they value it. And based on what you shared with me, it actually helped into the developing process of the relationship later on. Does it help you secure renewals easier because of this relationship?
I tend to think so, yes. But of course, at the end of the day, if the product is no longer necessary, they will drop it. Of course, being hugely apologetic and with a lot of sorries along the line. But if there is no need, they will drop it. However, if you have, as I mentioned, the constant contact with that person, he will be definitely more inclined to at least recommend the product to various other departments throughout his or her organization in the hopes of maybe the licenses can be repurposed. So that is a thing. And yes, it does happen as well.
You being the only person handling or the head of the CS, or at least up until now, I assume that you have a lot on your plate from onboarding, support signals, renewals, all on your own. How do you decide what deserves attention, as in now, and what can wait? How do you prioritize your load on a day to day basis?
I wouldn't say that I'm swamped. And that is because, as I mentioned from the beginning, I have a team working with me, actually two teams, the support team as well. and we can always rely on each other to help. There are times, rarely, when I know I have a call with the US at 11 a.m. our time, and then a call with Australia at 5 o'clock in the morning. These things do happen. Sometimes we cannot avoid them. But in most cases, I have the flexibility to arrange them according to my own time zone. And as I mentioned, I have people to help me even with dealing with larger volumes. So it's definitely manageable, or at least that's how I perceive it.
That some startup-ish environment, not tactics or similarities do apply in your case as well. So you don't formalize a lot,
Not
but
really.
now in terms of some processes, but I assume that in some cases you can go scrappy, and in others you do need to formalize because it doesn't go other way around. So I'm curious, who sits where? What are the things that up until now in your team doesn't need to be formalized, or we don't need to over engineering it in terms of processes because it works? And what are the things that you felt the need to be more procedural or do things different?
To be completely honest, I've been quite fortunate because I have been given complete flexibility to choose how to approach these clients. My manager has been highly supportive, and so have been my colleagues. So I've been able to organize my duties and my interactions and how I work with several nice clients according to my own preferences. Of course, my corporate background helped. I'm not going to rub shoulders inadequately with high-ranking people from customer companies, but I know how to keep things formal or slightly informal depending on each case. And by scrappy, I don't know. The only thing that I would think that I keep scrappy in days with, well, let's say, higher volumes, perhaps I keep multiple notepad tabs open in which I write a few things about whatever I handle that day. But once every, I don't know, 3, 4 days, I clean it up, put the right information, what I need to, and so on and so forth. I try to be as tidy as possible because I have roughly, I know, 100 something clients. So if I'm not organized slash tidy, it would be quite hard to remember things for each account, particularities, and
What helps you stay so organized in the day-to-day work?
the need to be organized, as I mentioned, because the volume, albeit not huge, but it's not tiny either. So if I don't keep a clear record of every activity for each customer in the tools that we use, slash in my own Excel slash notepad, it's very easy to lose the momentum and forget important, vital details for various customers. And this will return and bite me at certain points. I have to, it's a need, definitely a need.
Speaking about tools and Excels, how do you know when an account is healthy and when something feels off? What are the signals that you are searching for in the tools that you have?
Again, it depends on the communication with these people. Firstly, I can see yellow flags or worse, red flags during our refresher sessions. When I see a lot of support tickets over and over again from a customer, that's definitely a yellow flag. After, let me give you an example. Let's say that in the course of a week, a client has 3 support tickets. I check with the engineer who handled them to see, let's say in layman terms, how critical it is, how bad it is, and I follow up with the customer to see if the problem was resolved, how things are going, and to see if there's anything that we can do to improve the situation if it hasn't been already taken care of. And that's when, as I mentioned, we can pretty much see if there's something changing and cluster control no longer becomes relevant in their organization.
I want to deep dive on the data and on some metrics that, at least in the case of your organizations, they are important. And I'm going to ask you to name some of the metrics that you guys are looking for. But go deeper and tell me why were those important for the setup, because different organizations have different type of metrics and they measure things differently because of the type of business they are doing, because of the journey they are, because of the moment the company is in a specific journey. I want to ask you, but also give you the chance to make the thinking visible to our audience. Why did you guys pick them, and what do they mean for you? Not interested in numbers, but only in metrics.
I understand. I understand. Yeah. Of course, these metrics are devised by our management team, discussed on they're established every year. We look, of course, at renewal rate. We look at churn rate. We look at upsells. We look at new business, and of course, value for each of them. I think these are relevant for any company, regardless of the point of their journey where they're mentioned. So these would be the main metrics that we look at.
And what does value mean? Providing value.
Value as in the exact amount, because at the
Okay,
end of
value
the
in
line,
terms of the contract value. No,
yeah,
I
yeah,
was
yeah.
under the impression that you are taking a look at how can we provide value to our customers besides the impact that we have. Value along of the journey for you guys, the journey between you and the them. Okay, understood. So you are measuring the traditional ones. How important is it for you guys for the onboarding to be happening in a specific time, or to make sure that you prove value, because we were talking about the value in a shortened time or time frame? Is it something that
Very important. It's very
okay?
important. Right after the booking takes place, I send a welcome letter to the new client, and I ask them for a slot available to do the onboarding as soon as possible, because it's in, of course, their interest as well as our interest for them to make the most after their new purchase and to use it to its full capabilities. Right. Yes, that's handled right away. And if they don't answer for whatever reason, I follow up in a couple of days, then in a couple of more days. It's a must, definitely. It has to
Okay.
be done ASAP.
Coming from much bigger companies, or speaking about the corporate backgrounds that you have, what's one habit that you had to unlearn once you moved into scale up CS?
To be honest with you, that was the first one. It wasn't easy. I'm sorry, it wasn't hard to unlearn the lack of flexibility in a lot of processes, especially internal ones, not just for my previous employer, but also previous corporate ones as well. When I needed something to be done internally, sometimes it would take a lot to submit an internal ticket, to do follow-ups, to, as the English say, to go from pillar to post to get something done, especially internally. Now it's a lot easier because I can pretty much select everyone from support team to the upper management team and so on. This is, in my opinion at least, this is an advantage of working in a smaller company, non-corporate size company, to put it like this, because it's a lot easier to communicate in between departments, in between pretty much everyone, and get something done, as long as there are resources, and by resources I mean time and money, to get things done. That's about it, I think. Other than that, it's pretty similar.
How easy is it in your case to reach this alignment, not only between sales and CS, but also the discussions with the product, the the journey between, let's call it, marketing, sales, CS, and also product? How do you guys leverage the advantage of the startup environment?
By keeping a close contact and pretty much being a unified voice when we make contact with the customer, because as I mentioned, we work in conjunction. My refreshers, for example, in most cases are both with the account executive and with a support engineer or the solutions architect. So we have a unified interface of acting when we make contact with the customer. And the marketing team, of course, my superior, our VP of sales, is in constant contact with them to tell them what we see in the market, to tell them what we need, what they should focus on that would help our work. So constant contact, communication, basically, which is highly important.
And for someone listening and thinking, I don't even qualify as customer success person, what would you tell them after leaving the setup yourself?
In my opinion, if you have at least 2, 3 years of experience in a corporate environment, if you have great to like native level of control in terms of English, written and also spoken, if you are a good overall communicator with some attention to detail, which is very important, you can definitely get any non-technical position in a corporation, or let's say company that aspires to reach the status of a corporation. That is my opinion based on my experience. Of course, experience is subjective, but this is what I've learned. Do what you're paid for responsibly, be a pleasant colleague to work with, be helpful whenever you are needed. Networking is extremely important. It's key. It's key. And you can do that only if you are, as I mentioned, a pleasant person to work with. And if people see that you get the job done. Be an overachiever when it's in your advantage. I'm going to be honest with this, financial or otherwise, prestige, you name it, or promotion. And remember that the people with whom you work today are the ones who are or aren't going to recommend you to your potential new employer tomorrow, let's say. So, after you have the necessary experience, after you get your position and make some more experience, afterwards, do not sell your time cheap, because this is what drives all of these companies to raise salaries. I'm serious. And there's another component, in my opinion, which unfortunately you don't have any control of, and that is chance. Throughout my professional evolution, I have to admit that a couple of times the right recruiter or recruiters called me at the right time when I was available to try something new. And one thing led to the next, and things went into place. Let's put it like this. Or I met through another job, let's put it this way, some people with whom I got connected and they recommended me to the next employer. So chance plays a very, I will not say vital, but very important role in all of this. But once again, experience, work, networking, these are up to you.
Catalin, this was such a grounded and honest conversation. And I really loved the way you broke down what customer success looks like in your case without hiding behind processes or
No,
titles.
no,
Thank
please.
you. Thank you so much for sharing your story and insights. And to everyone listening, thanks for tuning in. Until next time, stay curious, keep learning, and mastering customer success.
Thank you. Cheers, everyone.